I remember meeting this one guy once at a party I was going to. Like, he's the first person I met in the party, and he started speaking to me, and people just like word vomit their entire lives to me. It's a very common thing that happens, like on first meeting. I'm telling you, people will tell me the most secret, the secrets that are closest to their heart, you know, like right away. And this guy's telling me about this whole situation he was having with somebody and blah, 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 blah. I said one sentence in response to this guy. And he goes, how did you, you know, he's just like, how did you understand? How could you possibly have known that based on what I told you, you know? And the answer is actually math. Like, but people don't have a way of understanding how you could use math to understand someone's reality. Like, but like math is universal truth. So that is literally a way to find out what anyone's reality is. So it's just like, is
I feel like I need an example. I've been trying not to ask you for an example because I don't know if this is like PhD level. I'm not sure how you're supposed to give an example.
That's
And like,
exactly why I'm not doing it, is because ultimately it'll then come down to talking about set theory and truth tables and functions and probability and statistics and a lot of other things. Like, it is a amalgamation of a lot of different mathematics that I'm using to do this stuff, and I create it over time. It's not like something that like is not in a book anywhere. It's like literally something I made and
your
used.
theory, yeah.
Yeah, so eventually I'm going to write a paper on it, right? Like, and I've but yeah, it's just very hard to find anyone who I can converse with it with. When I find someone, like when I meet math PhDs in the wild, I like pounce, you know, like I use it as an opportunity to talk about these things. Like, I remember I was at a wedding maybe a few years ago, 3 years ago, and I met a math PhD there. He was like, it was actually a fellow lawyer's wedding, and he goes, "Oh, what do you do?" And I was like, he was like, "Oh, like, how do you know the groom, right?" And I was like, "Oh, I went to law school with him." And he's like, "Oh, another lawyer, this and that." And then I go, "Well, actually, like, that's not what I do for work. I'm a mathematics teacher." His whole demeanor changed, his whole expression changed. And he turned out to be a PhD in mathematics, running a team working on neural networks. And we talked about all about his work. He tried to get me to run his team. Like, I mean, every time I talk to one of these PhDs, they always try to get me to do work for them, because it's rare to have someone who understands the mathematics, but also understands why you're doing mathematics.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, they recognize that in me, but of course, like, it always turns up that they want to exploit me. So,
Well, and I mean, to that point, kind of like, you mentioned this very small percentage of Black mathematician PhD people. And only through the conversations that I've had on my podcast have I become more familiar with PhD school and what that's like, and finding advisors and all of that stuff. Like, are you concerned about being able to find an advisor who is knowledgeable enough to be able to be on your team for solving the race problem with math?
I mean, it's not necessarily an issue of knowledge. It's more an issue of acceptance of that as a
Okay,
goal. You know, like, so
got you.
yeah, because most people who are doing high level mathematics, right? They work in tech, they work in engineering. You know, they're working on projects. They're working on AI, right?
Yeah,
They're working in places where utilizing their math knowledge will turn into a profit. So, like, what I'm trying to
right.
do, solve a social problem that actually is creating profit for a lot of people, you know, finding someone who's willing to engage in that at the level that I'm trying to do the work at, it's
And I imagine it
untenable.
has to be a math person. Like, you couldn't get like a philosophy PhD
I mean, I
teacher
could, but like,
for
you
this.
know, I want to get a math PhD.
Ah,
Like,
mhm.
there are certain, I already know for myself that there's certain areas of mathematics that I need to explore further based on what I've already done. So I need to go down the hard
Yeah,
math road. But yeah, that road is chock full of white people and
of course. Yeah.
yeah, and white men specifically, who definitely, there is a level of arrogance and superiority in that environment that's like beyond the beyond. So um that's why it's interesting, like, watching these people, these white males who I run into in randomly, and I talk to them. They have PhDs in math, they're doing work, you can watch across their face. Like their faces change as they realize that I know stuff, like they're starting to realize that I know things. And then they're like, it's very uncomfortable for them. Actually, it's so funny.
It's
like,
probably threatening.
It is, right, because they're like, it's outside of their even imagination. Again, like my existence is outside of their imagination. So so it's funny to observe.
Ultimate imposter.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect for a story for your podcast. That's exactly
Yes.
right. Yeah.